Good evening, you're watching AWANI Tonight with me, Faye Kwan. We are coming to you from Dataran Putrajaya in front of the Putrajaya Corporation, where Ramadan festivities are alive and well and in full swing. But on to today's news. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim has urged government-linked investment companies, GLICs, to invest around 120 billion ringgit domestically over 5 years to boost the country's economic growth. He says the government's focus and key performance indicators are not solely based on profit, but on an approach referred to as Gear Up. Anwar was addressing a question from Senator Datuk Mustafa Musa on GLC's and GLIC's latest KPI focus to ensure that dividend contributions would strengthen the government's revenue. He noted that the latest development budget is the highest compared to previous years. These investments are focused on high-growth, high-value sectors where Malaysia is already seeing positive momentum. He cites the strong performances from GLICs such as Khazanah, KWAP and EPF last year, attributing their success to the resilience of GLCs and Malaysia's broader investment landscape. Anwar also urged GLICs and GLCs to set a benchmark for efficient and accountable management to prevent financial mismanagement. Putrajaya is set to announce a toll discount for the upcoming Hari Raya Aidilfitri Festival. Works Minister Datuk Seri Alexander Nanta Linki says it will follow a similar concept to the one implemented during Chinese New Year. Nanta reminded the public to be patient as the government is still finalising the details. A 50% discount on toll rates was given to highway users for Chinese New Year in January. In February, the Works Ministry announced that this mechanism will be implemented during all festive seasons this year, replacing the previous toll-free initiative by the government. Nanta previously said this measure would reduce the costs borne by the government in compensating highway concessionaires. The government is set to roll out a new digital tracking system to regulate the sale of subsidised cooking oil, ensuring it reaches only those who qualify. Deputy Domestic Trade and Cost of Living Minister Fuzia Saleh says a pilot of the Cooking Oil Price Stabilisation Scheme, or ECOS, will be launched later this year. Under the plan, a digital monitoring system will track the flow of packet cooking oil from packaging companies to wholesalers and retailers. Consumers may need to scan a QR code or use another verification method before making a purchase. This aims to prevent foreign nationals from buying subsidized oil. To further tighten control, the government is limiting purchases to 3 packets per consumer and implementing a zonal system in Sabah and Sarawak, restricting packages to designated areas. Between January 2024 and March 2025, authorities recorded 605 cases linked to subsidized cooking oil misuse, including 9 hoarding incidents, leading to the seizure of 3,655 kilograms. We'll be back with more after the break. Stay tuned.
Menggaruk kulit kepala disebabkan kelumumur, masalahnya lebih mendalam. Gunalah Head and Shoulders menembusi 5 lapisan untuk membasmi kelumumur dan kegatalan. Bebas kelumumur sehingga 100%. Head and Shoulders diuji secara dermatologi. Maggi Curry. Puasnya tiada ganti.
Di dalam setiap berita yang dibawa, konteks amat penting. Kami sentiasa membawakan yang tergempar dan terkini. Pastikan Astro AWANI menjadi pilihan anda, tidak kira di mana sahaja anda berada.
Welcome back. The National Women's Policy, launched on March 8th, aims to address the rising cases of domestic violence against women. But how effective will it be? Amina Siddiqui from Sisters in Islam weighs in on the policy's potential impact and the challenges ahead.
It seems promising, but the issue would be how will it be implemented? Will it be implemented well? This policy could, if implemented well, address many of the gaps in protection and support that currently exist. However, the success depends very much on consistent funding and strong political will. Now, when it comes to political will, we lack political will when it comes to women's rights. So how far this national women's policy is going to be implemented and how well managed remains to be seen. It's the right step in the first place, but they would definitely need significant reforms and much better implementation than what we have seen previously.
Amina also examined the reality faced by domestic violence survivors in seeking help and the accessibility of existing support systems.
Actually, if you look at the current situation, we do have the laws, the Domestic Violence Act 1994 and various protection orders like emergency protection orders and interim protection orders. These are available, but the real issue lies with enforcement and accessibility. There are also reports of police officers when they do make reports, turning them away, saying this is a private matter. So and many women feel very ashamed to move forward with it. So, and legal support is also another big problem. All right, because most survivors can't afford lawyers. They have about 42 approved shelters in Malaysia, which is definitely insufficient for a population where half the population are women. That makes approximately 16 million women as of 2023. So definitely and a lot of these shelters are actually in urban areas. So leaves the victims in rural areas with very few options. So how accessible are these shelters is also another question, right?
Domestic violence cases surged to over 7,000 last year, compared to 5,500 in 2023. Amina shares key trends Sisters in Islam has observed through their service helpline.
One of the notable patterns that we notice is domestic violence has become the leading cause of divorce among Malaysian Muslims. All right. Now, in 2023, about 20% of divorce cases handled by Telenisa were due to domestic violence, surpassing other reasons like communication breakdown. And this is a sharp increase from 15% in 2020. So from our numbers, within the Muslim household in terms of divorce, domestic violence is the leading cause. And another worrying trend, and this is very important for us to understand, is the link between domestic violence and financial abuse. Financial abuse is always overlooked, but it is a form of abuse. Now, in many cases, the involved husbands not providing nafkah, which is financial maintenance. And so when they don't provide nafkah, and this causes economic control. And there is also a rising issue of child maintenance. 47% of fathers fail to provide adequate support after divorce. This leaves many women struggling financially and mentally. So our data also shows that women often endure years of psychological and emotional abuse before seeking help. Up to 13 years of marriage, between 4 to 6 years of marriage, then only they will at least try to be. So all these patterns actually highlight that domestic violence is not just about physical abuse, but also includes financial and emotional dimensions.
Now on to international news. The Federal Reserve held interest rates steady on Wednesday as expected. Fed Chair Jerome Powell made it clear that the Fed would wait for more clarity on the Trump administration policy before adjusting rates.
Looking ahead, the new administration is in the process of implementing significant policy changes in 4 distinct areas: trade, immigration, fiscal policy, and regulation. It is the net effect of these policy changes that will matter for the economy and for the path of monetary policy. While there have been recent developments in some of these areas, especially trade policy, uncertainty around the changes and their effects on the economic outlook is high. While these individual forecasts are always subject to uncertainty, as I noted, uncertainty today is unusually elevated. Our current policy stance is well positioned to deal with the risks and uncertainties that we face in pursuing both sides of our dual mandate.
Taking stock of the Trump administration's rollout of tariffs, Fed officials actually marked up their outlook for inflation this year, with their preferred measure of price increases expected to end of the year at 2.7% versus the 2.5% pace anticipated in December. According to Powell, there may be a delay in further progress toward the Fed's 2% inflation goal over the course of this year. Officials also marked down the outlook for economic growth for this year from 2.1% to 1.7%, with slightly higher unemployment by the end of this year. Nearly all Fed policymakers felt the risk of higher inflation and of lower growth had increased, with a near unanimous sentiment in saying the outlook for the year was muddled. The forecasts are the Fed's first group attempt to account for the first weeks of the new Trump administration and the initial rollout of what White House officials say will ultimately be global tariffs on imported goods. The Fed left its policy rate in the 4.25% to 4.5% range.
Finland once again tops the World Happiness Report, which was released today. The report measures social support, income, health, freedom, generosity, and the absence of corruption to determine a country's national happiness.
People in 143 countries and territories are asked to evaluate their life on a scale from 0 to 10, with 10 representing their best possible life. Results from the past 3 years are averaged to create a ranking. Finland remained in the top spot for an 8th year, with an average score of 7.75, followed by Denmark, Iceland and Sweden, while Afghanistan held the bottom spot with scores of 1.36. Professor of Economics at the University of Oxford and editor of the World Happiness Report, Jan-Emmanuel Deneve, said that among the factors that contributed to people's well-being was GDP per capita, wealth distribution, a welfare state that provides psychological stability and a healthy life expectancy.
It's a good thing to put a spotlight on places like Costa Rica and Mexico because they are achieving high levels of life satisfaction in their population with a different set of with a different recipe, with a different set of ingredients. So they do not necessarily have the high income GDP per capita and the redistribution through the welfare state. What they do have, and this is also something we focus in on this year, is they have a very strong family set of family ties, so their immediate community is very strong.
Deneve also said the report also showed a general increase in anxiety, worry and stress around the world. The annual World Happiness Report, launched in 2012 to support the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, is based on data from US market research company Gallup, analysed by a global team now led by the University of Oxford.
That report wraps up AWANI tonight. Do check out our web portal, keeping you informed on the critical events shaping our world. All in one place at international.astroawani.com. That's all for now. I'm Faye Kwan. Thank you for watching and good night.
Penyasaran subsidi diesel